Hello, my name is Andy and I am the village idiot, and a man with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. You are going to love this village. I'm in northeast Derbyshire today. This is the first time I've ever been to this place and I haven't even walked around it yet, and I already know this is going to be fantastic because I've taken a drive in from a little place called Littlemoor, which falls within these parish boundaries. Some of the scenery is absolutely amazing, and I also know that this village has got quite a lot of things which you guys will love if you like old architecture and old stone buildings. It's quite hilly in places, I'm led to believe. So yeah, this one should be quite cool. Welcome to Ashover. Ashover is a gorgeous little village in northeast Derbyshire, the population of which, taken at the 2011 census, was 1,905. Ashover lies in the valley of the River Amber, about halfway between Chesterfield to the north and Matlock to the south.
Cheers, guys.
The centre of the village is a conservation area with many an old building and relic to feast your eyes upon. Although Ashover village is a small settlement, the parish boundaries extend for many miles, including the nearby settlements of Alicehead, Alton, Ashover Hay, Farhill, Kelstedge, Littlemoor, Milltown, Spitewinter, Edge and Uppertown. There are two major roads running through the parish. These are the A632 from Matlock to Chesterfield and the A615 from Matlock to Alfredton. The area along the part of the A615 through the parish is named Doughhole, and the parish also takes in the small hamlet of Slack in its northwestern corner, which has been developed in the former Wirestone quarry. So the two guys that you would have seen in that opening couple of shots just stopped me a few minutes ago and asked me what I was doing. It's a common thing, I get it all the time. It was quite cool actually, because he said I looked very professional. Always nice to get a compliment, and that just goes to show that Derbyshire folk are very friendly. Ashover village was known in Saxon times as Essovre, possibly meaning beyond the ash trees or ash tree slope. Ashover was probably in existence during the first taxation survey of England by King Alfred in 893. However, the first written reference to the village occurs in the Domesday Book in 1086, in which Ashover is owned by Ralph Fitzhubert and is credited with a church, a priest, several ploughs and a mill. It had previously a taxable value of £4, but it was revalued at 30 shillings. Ashover was the scene of a confrontation between the Royalists and the Roundheads during the English Civil War in the 17th century. The Roundheads, short of ammunition, demolished the windows of the church and used the lead to make bullets. Ashover's industrial history is linked with lead mining and quarrying, both of which date back to Roman times. Hey, guess what? I found a map. Here is Ashover Parish, and look at the sheer size of it. There's Ashover, which is where we are. We're here, outside the parish hall. Now, as you can see, the village is not actually all that big, but the rest of the parish is absolutely massive. And a little bit later on, I'll be showing you Littlemoor. I actually started there, but I've rearranged the shots in this video, and Littlemoor's coming later. And I took a drive from here down through this area here and up into Ashover, and a little bit later I'll be going up there because there's a landmark I want to catch. But really, all of it is just spread out so much over this massive rural area, and there's no way I can catch it all. So this video will basically focus on the main village here, and then I'll come up here for this landmark up here. If there's anything up there, that will be covered in today's picture bit. Part of the village was home to the stocking frame knitting industry, which once rivaled lead mining in importance here. That area is called rattle, which is believed to be a reference to the noise made by the machinery. Electricity came to the village in the 1920s, but the village was not connected to the national grid until a decade later. Some outlying settlements were not connected till after the Second World War, and it was not until 1967 that gas street lights were replaced by electric lighting. For a time, Ashover tried to join the water cure revolution. Ashover House Hydro was built in 1869, followed about 10 years later by Amber Vale and others, to try to turn the village into a somewhat exclusive watering place for both short and long-term visitors. The success of the industry was comparatively short-lived and didn't last until the end of the century. The hydro remained until 1963 and thereafter was purchased by the Electricity Board. The building today is divided into private apartments with further expensive new houses built within the grounds. Born in 1627, Leonard Wheatcroft was a jack of all trades and along with his son acted as Ashover Parish Clerk for a broken period spanning 92 years. He kept a diary and his writing is the best available account of 17th century life in the village and the whole of the county. Shortly after the First World War, the author, researcher and publisher Cecil Lugard came to live in the village and recorded a wealth of local historical detail. He set up his own printing press that he called the Dirty Duck at Wheatcroft Cottage. His book, Saints and Sinners of Ashover, certainly created a lot of interest. Along with Crick and Matlock, the village was used for a time as a location for the ITV drama series Peak Practice. Ashover won the Cala Village of the Year competition in 2005. Ashover also regularly attracts visitors to its annual August show. The average house here will cost you a pricey £483,000. The parish covers an area of 38.68 square kilometres, making it North East Derbyshire's biggest in terms of size. The low population and huge area gives it a low population density at 49.67. It's overwhelmingly white British at 98.9%. So in this part of Ashover, we've got quite a few properties that make reference to Butts. We've got Butts Cottage just in front of me here. There's Butts Grange over there I've just seen. And this road is in fact known as Butts Road. And the reason everything is known as Butts around here is because there used to be a station here called Ashover Butts, and it was on the Ashover Light Railway. And that is the ideal time to start talking about it. Ashover Butts railway station was the terminus of the 1 foot 11.5 inch narrow gauge Ashover Light Railway. It was built as a result of George Stephenson and his Claycross company continuing to develop their mining interests. Construction started in 1922 and the railway opened to goods traffic in 1924. The formal opening to passenger traffic took place in 1925 and the line was built using surplus equipment from the War Department Light Railways. Although the line was built principally to carry mineral traffic, its passenger service proved successful during the mid-1920s, and as we've seen previously, part of the route was flooded in 1958 when Ogston Reservoir was formed. Passenger services on the line were closed in 1936 and the mineral traffic ceased in 1950. The village is served by a bus, this being the 63 service between Chesterfield and Matlock. All Saints Church is a Grade 1 listed parish church, which is in a joint parish with the Holy Trinity Church of Brackenfield and Christ Church at Wessington. The porch here dates from 1275, the north aisle is mid-14th century, and the remainder of the church dates from between 1350 and 1419, built by Thomas Babington. A restoration was carried out in 1886 by Wands and Jolly of Nottingham. The western gallery was removed and the belfry and tower arch were opened out. The plaster was scraped from the pillars, arches and walls, and the north door was also opened out. Another restoration was undertaken in 1903 by Percy Hayling Curry of Derby. The old seats were replaced with new oak pews carved by G and W Eastwood. The floor was relaid with maple blocking and the heating system was overhauled. The stone paving in the aisles was relaid at the same height as the rest of the floor. The church would reopen on the 11th of September 1903. The first organ here was installed in 1886 by Abbott of Leeds for a cost of £250, equivalent to just over £27,000 today. Pubs now, and first up is the Crispin Inn. Outside, affixed to the front wall of the pub, is a signboard with the history of the inn. Job Wall, the landlord of the Crispin Inn public house during the aforementioned confrontation during the English Civil War, refused entry to the army, telling them they'd had too much to drink. But they threw him out and drank the ale, pouring what was left down the street. The other pub here is the Black Swan, a popular pub with ramblers. This is a one-room pub serving good food and ale, and it's apparently dog-friendly if you believe the signs on the outside. Personally though, if I was landlord, I don't think I'd be too keen at letting this particular dog into my pub. Mind you, he looks like he's having the time of his life in that photo. The Old Poets Corner pub is a pub rooted at the heart of the local community. This serves a range of 10 draft beers, and the Old Poets Corner also boasts 5 B&B rooms as well as a holiday cottage, making it popular for visitors and locals alike. Ashover has its own medical centre, and then there's the parish hall, which is right next door. This has 3 rooms: the Amber Room, named after the river, the Rattle Room, named after the area of the village, and the Fabric Room, named after something we'll see later. The hall is adjacent to the local tennis courts, public playing field, and a modern children's play area. There's a garden patio which sits on the edge of the field, providing ample space for both indoor and outdoor events. In the summer, cricket is played on this very field. However, the pitch is on the opposite side of the field to the hall, so the cricket creates a nice backdrop to a summer event rather than interfering or being a hazard. In the past, wedding parties have rented one of the nearby fields from a local farmer to pitch tents and camp out. There are no major chain stores in the village, but it does have a couple of interesting little shops, including Bounds Butchers, Stamp Copy Shop, and a tuck shop near the Old Poets Corner. Then there's Ashover Primary School, which is of broadly average size, although according to the latest Ofsted report, it's oversubscribed. It takes pupils from a wide area to the south of Chesterfield. So of course Ashover is surrounded by all these other little settlements, and now it's time to hop in the car and go to Littlemoor. So this is Littlemoor. This is probably the biggest of the little hamlets that fall around Ashover. I'm going to take a few shots of this and then put the camera on the dashboard, and I'm going to drive from here through to Falgate, back into Ashover, and then out the other side so that we can get to a nice landmark to finish this one off. I'll be honest with you, in terms of information on Littlemoor, or indeed any of the other settlements around Ashover, everything was more than just a little thin on the ground. So this part of the video will feature me attempting to describe most things as best I can in my own words without having anything to help me. Littlemoor features a phone box which houses the defibrillator, and opposite this is a bus shelter, Littlemoor being served by the same 63 bus that we've just mentioned in Ashover. One thing I did find a little information for is the old chapel, a beautifully converted 19th century chapel which is now a holiday let. This charming accommodation comes with a multitude of walking and cycling trails nearby, and being situated right on the edge of the Peak District National Park, this makes it the ideal base for outdoor enthusiasts or couples who just wish to get away for a while. And on the edge of the peaks you really are here. As we drive back through Falgate and up once again into Ashover in a few moments, you'll certainly get the idea of how hilly this part of northeast Derbyshire is. Let's go for that drive now and notice just how steep and narrow some of the roads are towards the end of this next section of footage. I can tell you, this was quite the journey. hope you got the impression from that little drive through Ashover up to here how narrow and how steep it is, that part of the village. That was quite a drive, I have to admit. I didn't film most of it because I was concentrating too much on my driving. Okay, so we are on a hill now above Ashover, and we've got one more thing to see, and it's behind these trees here. But before we have a look at that, here comes today's picture bit. The fabric, or Ashover rock, lies to the east of the village and is a gritstone boulder and viewpoint. The fabric sits on an area of heathland 299 metres above sea level. It's the highest viewpoint for a considerable distance, and the majority of the landscape east of this point to the coast is lower. Consequently, on a clear day, views here can be nothing short of spectacular. It's well worth the climb up the narrow, sometimes uneven path to reach it from the road. Next to the fabric is a disused Royal Observer Corps monitoring station, which was abandoned in 1991. However, it's opened up occasionally by enthusiasts. For many years, the fabric was privately owned by the Bassett sisters, who were descendants of the family known for creating Bassett's licorice all sorts. So it's quite windy up here, and because of that I don't want the camera to just record wind noise over the top of me talking, so I'm just going to let the views do the talking here. In 2006 it was donated to Derbyshire County Council. In the Victorian period there was a stone folly on top of the fabric, no trace of which now remains. On certain days in the pagan calendar, Morris dancers have been known to gather here. So they say on a clear day you can see the likes of Bolsover Castle, you can see Chesterfield's Crooked Spire, you can even see some suburbs of Sheffield, and you can even see as far away as Staffordshire and Leicestershire from here, because this is the highest point around here for miles. And it's absolutely beautiful. I know it's not a very clear day, it's a little bit misty and you can't see any of those landmarks here right now, but to be honest with you, that view is not all that bad, is it? It's actually lovely. It's fantastic. Just goes to show what a beautiful part of the country Derbyshire really is. And speaking of Derbyshire, I have now only 3 parishes left to visit in northeast Derbyshire, and without further ado I'm going to go to my next one right now. This has been the parish of Ashover, and I've been Andy, otherwise known as the Village Idiot, and I hope you can hear me because of the wind. And I'll see you later somewhere else in northeast Derbyshire. I'm out.